Hi everyone, just before we get into this episode of Type 1 I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for pressing play. I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, don't forget to hit subscribe and you'll be notified when new episodes come about. You can find us across podcast land on Spotify, iTunes, all those good places as well. Secondly, anything you hear on this podcast should not be taken as medical advice. I am, of course, not a professional, and you do need to seek advice from your healthcare team before making any changes to your diabetes management. And lastly, if you want to say hello, I do have an Instagram page specifically for the Type 1 podcast. You can find it at Studio Type 1. That's at Studio Type 1, the number, on 1, the number. And you can also come and say hello and follow me on my personal page, which is at Miss Jen Greaves. And all of that will be noted in the episode description. Hi everyone, and welcome to Type 1, a podcast that delves into the obscure, complex and challenging world of life with Type 1 diabetes. I'm Jen Greaves, and each week, with the help of some brilliant guests, I'll be showing that there is no normal when it comes to handling this whopper of a chronic condition, because we're all pretty much figuring out the messiness of day-to-day life with diabetes as we go. And most of all, even though it doesn't always feel like it, we are absolutely not alone. Among some of the more positive stories we see about living with type 1 diabetes, the everyday can sometimes be overlooked. While I think any and all achievements should absolutely be celebrated, sometimes just making it through another day with type 1 diabetes is the marathon. The everyday of dealing with alerts while feeding your children, the everyday of catching your cannula on a door handle just as you're leaving the house, the everyday of having to make yet another decision, and the energy it takes to keep it all in the air, not only for yourself, but often for your family too. That was the brief for today's guest, who tells me she is an expert at failing slightly at multiple parts of her life all at once, which I don't believe for a second. But what I do absolutely connect with is just how exhausting the everydayness of type 1 diabetes on top of the everydayness of life can feel. And beyond that, how boring it can be. So prepare for a very unboring chat with the wonderful Philippa Robilliard. Hello, my dear.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me. This is a treat. So for people, just a bit of context, I feel like this is going to be a slightly more chatty episode because we connected many, many moons ago. It's been many, many years, really, since we've had any proper chats. But this concept of the unboringness and just the life that you have to lead with type 1 diabetes. I mean, you've had a very diabetes admin heavy week, so it's quite on brand for this today, right?
Definitely. It's the relentlessness, I think sometimes if I'm telling anybody about my diabetes that I've just met or they didn't know about it previously, you're explaining like your insulin pump and they're like, oh, but you take it off at night. And you're like, no, I've diabetic all night as well. It doesn't stop. You don't get Christmas off. You don't get your birthday off. It's there all the time. It doesn't matter that you're going to a wedding or on a flight or having a baby or trying to get through your work presentation pitch or anything. It's just constant.
Very that. And even like speaking that intro out loud and hearing you say that, like the sigh of relief, like just the, oh yeah, we can acknowledge this. We can say this out loud. It's okay. Like that is a sigh of relief for me. So thanks for being a part of this safe circle of acknowledgement of the boringness of type 1 diabetes today. Tell me what's gone on in your week that's been admin heavy.
So this week we've had a bit of a mini heat wave in the UK, and I think it's been even worse for you in Spain. So we've had very high temperatures. So my diabetes management has been a bit off kilter because of the additional heat. Your sensitivity to insulin goes haywire. For this week, for me, it's been more hypo driven. So any physical exercise, whether it's walking to pick my children up from school. I did do a Zumba class on Monday in extreme temperatures, but there was air conditioning, has just resulted in quite a lot more hypos over a very short period, like 2 or 3 a day. So, it's just the boringness of everybody else. It's like, oh, there's lovely heat, so I'll go and do some outdoor things and enjoy it. Yeah, that's not my starting point for that kind of weather. It's, oh, I've got to check my blood sugars more, and make sure I stay like a lot more hydrated, because that affects your insulin sensitivity, your blood glucose. If you're not hydrated, there's less water in your blood, and then your blood sugars are higher as a consequence. Um, it's it's the stickiness of if you're wearing a CGM, or the adhesiveness gets affected when you've got sun cream on, and it's just so many things.
The constant like low level, just like peck, 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 peck. And the thing with this kind of heat stuff as well, like you think you're set with supplies, but it doesn't take too many of those sort of slippery mishaps, shall we say. Not sure that's the phrase, but the slippery mishaps have consequences, and suddenly you're like, oh, I really don't have a lot left,
Yeah, it's there've been some emergency Amazon purchases for sort of my glucose shots. That's sort of my main go-to. Even in this heat, I left a packet of jelly babies in the car, and they all melted and congealed together. And
right. then I've been there chewing through that, like,
just be like, oh, I'll just eat it as a solid lump then. And you're like, didn't need this extra thought process whilst in the middle of a hypo. And it's just harder. It's just infinitely harder. But yeah, it's the little things. It's like, oh, you've run out of this, or you're going through your insulin faster, or your insulin's not in a fridge right now, and that you've got to go like, oh, well, is this okay? Does it look okay? That's not best practice for looking after your insulin. And it's just little things all the time that you have to deal with.
Yeah, the realities, and like even without the heat, this all stands like on a normal level, right? Where you're just trying to like make this all work, because I think you've just articulated there that like the ripple effect of one thing going off is this, like it's the domino then of, because of that thing that's happened, there's like 3 more decisions to make, which each have 3 more consequences, and this like ripples into my day then, and I'm trying to get the kids to school and etc etc. So let's just tell everyone a little bit, for those that don't know, about just like who Philippa is. Paint a picture of your life.
Hi, I'm Philippa. I'm a senior project manager in the creative industry. So I manage a creative team. My job is very stressful. It's moving lots of things, trying to predict what may or may not happen, and problem solving a lot of stuff all the time. That's basically what I do in my life outside of work as well.
I was going to say,
I feel like type 1 diabetes is really good training for my job. I'm also a parent. I have 2 children. I have a daughter who is 9 and a son who is 7. So also same skill set, but with added love, I would say. Trying to manage our family life. I also have a husband. He's called James, and my diabetes is a family affair. We're all sort of having to get our heads around it, and take it into account whenever we do things. And then I think I've had type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed in 1988. How? You look so young. But I was 5, so it's been a constant throughout most of my life. I don't remember my life before type 1 diabetes, which I think is quite a different experience to lots of people who are diagnosed sort of when they're older. And I think obviously that brings its own sort of mental struggles with adapting, but for me it's been a constant. Although saying that, it's been a constant. My manager, I think you've had a diabetes for a very long time as well. um a lot has changed through the I don't know, what is it, 38, god, 38 years I've had
Yeah.
it. So I now have I have a tandem T-Slim insulin pump, and I use the Dexcom G7 CGMs. Those are both fully funded by the NHS here in the UK, which I'm forever grateful for. I have self-funded CGMs and Libras when they first came out in through pregnancy. So yeah, it's changed a lot. When I first was diagnosed, it was all syringes and insulin, and I didn't have a blood glucose machine. It was peeing on sticks and watching the colours change.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we've gone through a lot of technological changes in diabetes technology and understanding as well. I think for me, the arrival of the internet and the diabetes online community has been probably the biggest change in my diabetes story. It's just it's been lovely to meet people like you and other people from the diabetes community, and sort of that space for peer support and knowledge and understanding and things like this where we are now is really changed my perception of diabetes, my knowledge and understanding of it. So I mean, I'm much better placed now than I have been historically. So yeah, there's a lot,
Yeah.
a very long
Amazing.
summary, but there we go. There's a lot to cover.
No, I mean, that's a life lived with type 1 diabetes. That's what it is. I mean, the tech is obviously a pivotal piece that we'll absolutely get onto. And what you say there about community as well. So I'm guessing then there was like quite a period where you did you know anyone else with type 1 for a long time? Like, what did that look like?
This is going to sound so weird. So in my sort of hometown, small market town outside of London, I used to go to my annual paediatric checks. So I knew like the three other kids in my hometown that had type 1 diabetes. And then I think there was a lady that sort of one of the mums did like at the bigger hospital in the next town, sort of started like a thing for like parents with kids with type 1. So I remember going to a couple of those, but your parents listened to some what I would define as boring stuff about diabetes, and then we'd all just go outside and play or do crafts in the next room or something, and be given sugar-free sweets, and things like that. So there was yeah, it was peer support, but old school variety, and
Right. You guys all
yeah,
go together.
but it was really it was really nice, but it wasn't as, I think just because of the internet, it wasn't as informative or easy as or accessible as what we have now. You had to get the family in a car, you had to go after school or something to go to these events, or wait for your parents to come in the evening and stuff, which is tricky when you've got small children, life balance and all of that. But total kudos for my parents. They were sort of into it, and with the limited availability of knowledge and understanding that we all had, we all just sort of got on with it, really. I have to credit them for like an amazing attitude, which was, we will just get on with it. We're not making this a big deal. We're not making it a big fuss. Obviously, there are occasions where it has to be, but it was it's a family affair. Everybody's invested in it. My mum said she remembered my brother is a couple of years younger than me. I think I was at school and it was before he started school, and he was going, "But mummy, it's snack time." And she was like, what do you mean? And he was like, but Philippa has a snack now, so it's our snack time, because that's what we did as a family. Back in the day when it was on sort of
Yeah.
mixed insulins and injections, you had to sort of feed the insulin. So you had a really structured, you had your breakfast, you had a mid-morning snack, you had your lunch, you had a mid-afternoon snack, you had your dinner, and then I'd have a snack before bed. That was my eating plan throughout my childhood, essentially.
Yeah.
So thanks for that
Yeah.
disordered eating chaos. um, Complicated, but necessary
Complicated.
for
It's
the
complicated,
insulin of the
yeah.
time and
Yes.
maintaining your general health at that point. So that was it. That's what it was for us. So that's how my whole family worked.
Yeah, there's just so much in that, and I also had that eat to feed the insulin
Yeah.
kind of regime for a while. So yeah, things definitely have moved on. You mentioned there like that your perspective has certainly changed, and that's unsurprising in throughout this time with type 1 diabetes and with the advancements that have been made and the connections that now can be made. Do you think type 1 diabetes is easier now, or do you think the challenges are just different?
It's tricky to really know for certain, because from my personal experience as a child and a teenager, I would say it was a lot easier, because I had 2 injections a day, one at breakfast, one at dinner. And then I ate food and just did stuff and didn't really think about it. It wasn't on my radar. But then also, it wasn't really me managing it. It was my parents. It was their responsibility to check that I was okay. Um, and that's the difficulty of going through that as a child, is that you're not thinking about it because it's not your responsibility, because you're 7 or 9 or 12 or something. So it wasn't really until, I had to go, start going on sleepovers or going on a school trip, and then I'm responsible for remembering to give myself insulin. But by then, I think by the end of primary school, we had insulin pens, so they were so much easier. And things like that. But then it was only for a short periods. And then it wasn't until like the end of high school, like sixth form, that the sort of short acting. I got put on Humalog and Humulin, so you had short acting and basal and basal insulins. So that only came in when I was like 17 or 18. But I remember being at school and having to explain to the deputy head that I needed to go home because I'd left my insulin at home, because it was a new regime that I had to get used to.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Puts you in so many awkward situations with adults,
yes,
I think. In
yes,
my experience, like having diabetes as a child throws off all the usual kind of rules of
yes,
those kinds of
definitely.
relationships at
Like
times.
one of the school trips I had, my mum had sort of given like really a list of, like, we'd have gone into school, we'd spoken to the teachers about it, for this residential trip that was going on, because normally they didn't have to do anything during the school day, because it was only if I had a hypo or something we would have to react to that, which very rarely happened to me as a child, to be honest, in during school hours. But I did have a hypo on this residential trip, and the teacher ignored all of the advice that my mum had given her. And like, we're all going, but you're responsible for me. And I went and said, like, I've got my symptoms back then for hypos. I'd always have like a tummy ache and I'd feel unwell. And she sent me off to like go and have a shower. And I don't really remember, but my mum remembers, and she remembers being absolutely furious with this teacher who, just entirely neglected her responsibility.
Yeah, that's rough for a kid to have to kind of then figure out a way through. Do you know what I mean? That's not a position you really should have been put in.
No, it was like 10 or 11, and you're telling somebody you need help, and they're just, I mean, I personally don't remember it, but my mum obviously does. But yeah, I mean, obviously I assume I was okay because I'm still here, but but yeah, it's sometimes you are very reliant on other people to help you, and that's tough. It's tough personally, getting your head around that sometimes. Thankfully, most of the time now, everybody around me is really helpful, and I'm very open about my diabetes, and the people I know and care about me are there for me when I need help. But that's not always the case, and that's not everybody's situation.
Yeah. So then I think that leads us into, I guess, these more uncomfortable moments, or the ways that type 1 diabetes, through the longevity of it, confronts you at different points, certainly as your kind of life chapters change. So one of the things I do remember you saying to me, I think maybe just in an idle chat over Instagram, actually, that one of the best things you did for yourself was taking time off work to focus on your type 1 diabetes. So I'd be so grateful if you could tell me a little bit more about that period, but also like leading up to that period, what was happening that led to that decision?
Yeah, it's really funny to talk about now because I feel like I'm in like a really good place with all my diabetes management now. But at the time, I was sort of in my mid-20s. I'd moved to London. I was trying to, work on getting a career. I studied design. I wanted to work in the creative industries. I was skint, I had no money, and I was really blessed with meeting possibly one of the nicest diabetes nurses at my local GPs, who had said, no, I think you need some help, to come and see this diabetes nurse. And I hadn't really been engaging or looking after my diabetes to the best extent up until that point. So I'm like 25. I probably had diabetes for 20 years, but my knowledge and understanding of diabetes was quite limited. We didn't massively have a lot of internet. We didn't have social media then. So there wasn't a thing to easily access. And also, in your teens and 20s, you're not interested. Like, who cares? Everyone's like, oh, no, not interested. I want to have fun and do things and live life. But I was just beginning to sort of struggle with my blood sugars and hypos and things like that. Was sort of living in London, and I think with my friend, and was being a lot more independent, not less reliant on my parents and anybody else taking care of me or helping support me with my diabetes. So it was all on me to sort of manage and do this. So I was like, okay, yeah, I think I do need help. I'll go and talk to this lady. And the first thing she said to me was, I love your handbag. Where's that from? I was like, oh, we're going to get on. This is great. Yeah. You're like, you know what? Because diabetes isn't my personality.
That's the quote. That's it. It's so true.
Yeah, I like handbags and shoes and music and eating great food and going out and doing other stuff and
we're whole relationships
and work and career and all of that stuff. Like when I introduce myself, I'm like a project manager. I'm a parent. Oh yeah, and I've got type 1.
No, good for you. It's true. It's like we're taking responsibility for our health because we have to. But there's a point, like you say, it just isn't all that I am, as much as I'm obviously sat here talking about it now for a living.
But it was part of that journey that I went on with my diabetes nurse and getting referred to my consultant at my hospital. A big shout out to Homerton Hospital and Dr. Anderson, who's an absolute star, and the rest of the diabetes team there who have looked after me for the last almost 18 years, I think. Love you guys. Don't see them very much now because I'm all okay, but huge kudos to you guys as a team. You get me and I get you, and it's lovely.
Makes such a difference, doesn't it? Because we hear so many stories of people who just disengage because of the tone or the environment or the feelings that going to a healthcare appointment provokes?
Yeah, my hospital in Hackney in East London, and they deal with all sorts of different communities, people, but their attitude is we will work with what you've got, because they're really good. They understand. They have a clinical psychologist as part of the diabetes team,
Amazing.
which is astoundingly progressive and helpful. I've thankfully not had to use her services, but I'm sure she's wonderful. They do community events. They manage all sorts of stuff. But through them, I did the Daphne course, which really opened my eyes to my knowledge and understanding of the condition I'd already lived with for 20 years. Like, oh, this is what that means. And through that, it was like, okay, I'm now doing carb counting, I'm balancing my insulin against what I'm eating, which I'd sort of worked out independently anyway, and would tweak my insulin doses, because I think back then I was on like a standard I'll have like 10 units for breakfast, 8 units at lunch, and 10 units at dinner, and then my basal for overnight. And I was kind of tweaking those depending on what I was doing anyway, because I'd sort of realized that that's roughly how it works. But I have like zero science biology training or understanding. As I said, my job is really stressful. You've got like deadlines and delivery dates you need to meet, and clients that are outrageously demanding. I've got some lovely clients as well, but it's the chaos bits that you have to cope with. Fundamentally, I feel like it was stress that was really impacting my diabetes. And then I was really struggling, and I think the one company I'd worked with got like one of those people that kind of assesses you to whether you are fit for your job, kind of thing. They were, being really proactively trying to help support me to stay employed with them. But then I was talking to this guy, and I was like, I'm on these multiple daily injections. I think an insulin pump would really help me. I was put on a CGM machine, but it was really massive and clunky. It was pre-Libre, pre-Dexcom G6, G7, just to sort of monitor what my blood sugars were doing, because my blood sugars every day were yo-yoing like this. I was going from like 17 and dropping to 3 in the space of like 2 hours. I was exhausted. Like, no wonder I'm not delivering at work. I feel awful all the time. So by mutual decision, I agreed that, perhaps work wasn't for me right then. And thankfully, we were in a place where my husband and I was like, we need to just stop and take some time out here. And my diabetes team were really great. And I just stopped going. I just, resigned from my job, just to take care of myself better. So I think I was out of work for a couple of months. And then thankfully, working with my awesome diabetes team, they were like, okay, I think you meet all the tick boxes now for getting an insulin pump. So this would have been like 2010, no, 2013, I think. So I was like, okay, let's do it. I think this is the thing that's really going to change things for me, because I can't yo-yo like this, constantly injecting like microdosing for corrections, and it was just too much. And I really wasn't in a good place. But it was during that sort of time off and things, I sort of discovered the diabetes online community via Twitter. So was helping expand, and I'd met some nice people at my hospital Daphne course as well, and things like that. So took some time off, got my insulin pump, which is like a Medtronic. I can't remember, but it was like blue. One of the little ones with the little batteries in. And within like 2 weeks, I was a different person. Like my family and my friends were just like, oh, it's like we've got
wow.
the old you back. Because my blood sugars were so much more, well, we now talk about like time in range. I didn't have like a CGM or anything then, but my blood sugars were time in range. Everything was a lot more controlled. And I just felt I was less exhausted. And like the transformation of that was phenomenal for me as a
Yeah.
person. And then, around me. And then I think I was out of work for maybe 4 or 5 months. And then I went off and I was like, yeah, I feel so much better. I'm going to apply to some more things and see how I get on. And got an interview with for a job and the man gave me the job during the interview. And I still work with that team or the wider company that is now around all of that. I've had various in and outs and stuff, but 13 years later, I'm still part of the same agency and some of the original team that I worked with. So it's been life changing, and then
Oh my gosh.
it changed my life getting an insulin pump.
Wow, there's so much in that. I think, first of all, having the courage to say, okay, this isn't working. I need to, I deserve this time. I can do it within the scope of what I've got going on in life, and I need it for my health. And what you said there about, you said earlier when I said, has it got easier? And you're like, that's hard to say. And I think we have so much awareness about what's going on inside our body, thankfully, thank goodness, because the consequences of not knowing that are exactly what you said there, this ping-ponging, which is just like, speaking from my personal experience as well, so much of that resonates. It's just how we lived, because when we didn't have the tech that is like making us our fullest selves, we also didn't have that awareness of what was going on. And with that comes, I guess, more decisions, because you're trying to
Yeah,
then like balance that out. So it's like two sides of the same coin that's both kind of positive and so negative in their own ways. From living with type 1 diabetes, is either you have the awareness and that comes with extra responsibility and extra decisions, or you don't have the awareness but the consequences on your health, and that became your norm, just to be that tired, just to be this shadow of yourself. But then also what you said there about how quickly things started to change, I think
2 weeks.
that's
Two
quite powerful
weeks.
as well,
Yeah,
isn't it?
2 weeks of having more in-range blood sugars and more consistency, or far improved consistency, less yo-yoing. I had done a lot of prep work before I got my insulin pump. I'd read Think Like a Pancreas, which is a phenomenal book that whose author's name escapes me right now, but I highly recommend it, because it's technical, but it's also very funny. And I wasn't expecting that, and I absolutely loved it. And I'd done that. I'd been doing food diaries and things like that, and my team were like, "You've come really prepared. Nobody does this." I was like, "I just want this to work. I'm so invested in this and being the solution." Um, yeah, it was a lot, but then also I had the time to be able to do that prior, and I needed it and I really wanted it to work straight away. So I put in all of that effort and to make it happen.
Can I ask you, just because you knew you were exhausted enough to say, I'm not going to work at the moment, but when you saw that shift, you witnessed that shift, and the people around you witnessed that shift so quickly, had you realized until it shifted just how different it had become, or how much of a norm it had become to be that version of Philippa?
I don't think so, because it's a slow burn. It doesn't happen overnight from going, oh, I feel great, to, oh God, utterly exhausted and yo-yoing all the time. It was a slow process from, having an MDI system that sort of mainly worked or wasn't causing issues, to sort of, over the course of a couple of years and with more education and understanding, knowing that it's just not working at all. I remember there was a very nice lady at work who was like, "Oh, you've just got to get a grip of this diabetes," and I was like, "There's honestly no more that I can do. I'm doing food diaries, I'm doing micro corrections, I'm measuring everything that I eat. Like, it's very nice that you're invested and you want me to do well, but you're so unaware of how much effort I'm putting in and how little I'm getting back." It's that conception that if you're not living it, people aren't aware. It doesn't look like you're doing anything, and I think it was so time consuming because I just wanted to feel okay, and whatever I did, I just wasn't.
Oh, that makes me emotional. And it resonates so hard as well. Well, I'm so glad you took that time.
No, but it's there's so much going on all the time, especially in like midlife, family, your job. My job has been incredibly stressful recently. I've moved teams and I'm having to learn and execute a whole load of stuff all at the same time, which is super challenging. And it's I don't. I feel a lot more on top of stuff, and actually, most of the time at the moment, my diabetes is a lot less of my time and energy. So yeah, I would say, like, when I was on MDI and doing multiple corrections and doing this and blah blah blah, and then the manuality of it, finger pricking, putting the data in your CGM, and all of that. Like when the Libre came out, I self-funded that because I was wanting to get pregnant, have babies, have a family, and I was like, this is what I need to be able to do that. And even when that came out, it was like, oh, I have to manually scan it, still put that data in. It's a running joke at work with my team, whether it was me beeping or the printer. Phil, is that you or the printer? It's me. It's me. And like, do you need anything? Are you all right? I'm like, I'm fine. Just go and do this. I had a lovely boss at the time who got very good at realizing I was phasing out in meetings and would step in and take over for me without making a big deal and kick me under the table to make sure I ate something. It takes a village with type 1. And I'm really grateful for the wonderful people that I've had around me that have helped support me through my journey with it. Like, couldn't do it without them.
This episode of Type 1 is sponsored by Dexcom. Using Dexcom CGM has given me so much confidence to make informed diabetes treatment decisions in the moment. You can choose to wear it on your arm or your abdomen, which is so great to give those sites a break. And all Dexcom CGMs have the share and follow feature, even when connected to an insulin pump. So your family and friends can see your glucose levels and get alerts, giving that extra bit of support when needed. Head to dexcom.com to request your free Dexcom ONE+ sample. Always read the user manual for important product aspect and limitations. Talk to your doctor for diabetes management terms and conditions and terms of use. Let's talk about family. You've mentioned James, so we need to give James a shout out.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. What's the kind of journey, I guess, because diabetes is like present in your relationship, right? So he's been with you through all of this and to where you are now. And he got involved in the diabetes community. I'm very happy to say I met James a few times, but how has that been? Like, what's his kind of role within all of this? Has that shifted? Like, how do you, because I'm, in relationships I've been in, the diabetes has been different in terms of how much they take on or the way that they take on the bits that they can kind of help with, and how much I allow that to happen, being super independent as well. So
he's incredibly supportive, but equally he gets really pissed off with it. Like, oh, what do you mean you're having another hypo? Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not having fun here either right now. It's like I said, it always affects you the most when you're doing something out of the ordinary. You're traveling, or you're going to weddings, or you've gone to a party, or I had a massive hypo in a warehouse rave with him once. We had to go home early. We had to stop at McDonald's on the way home, and it was Halloween, and somebody was dressed as Amy Winehouse in East London warehouse rave.
that's a lot to take in when you're hypo.
Yeah, 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 it is. What happened there? I was like, oh, just too much dancing.
Sorry, do you need a minute? I made you cry and I've just like carried on. Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm fine. Okay. But we've been together like 18 years now, so he is well versed with it. And equally, just, it's not like he's like super supportive all the time. He gets annoyed with it. I get annoyed with it. It's irritating living with type 1 / boring. It's he's always, both of us were still cooking dinner and going, what's the carbs on that? Oh, I don't know, pack it in the flipping bin. He tries so much, and he's been great, like helping support me with tech and things like that. He's always there. He's helps get me food if I hypo in the middle of the night, because I'm not getting out of bed. Sorry. I've got like a stash of stuff in my bedside table. When I was younger, I just used to get up and go downstairs and sort myself out and get some food and get some snacks to make me feel better. But when I was a kid, my parents would always bring like some sort of hypo food for me, but they'd always bring like a cup of milk and a biscuit. So once you're sort of, over that initial, like, your blood sugars is building up, like, so you don't hypo again later, because that's obviously scientifically not what likes to happen. I'd always have that. So he's become adept at now understanding that that's what I like, because that's what I grew up doing. So if I have a middle of the night hypo, I'm like, yes, I will need the glucose or the jelly babies that I have or haven't
comfort
got on my bedside table, because have I remembered to replace them? Probably not. Is it on my radar when I'm having the middle of having a hypo that I've just eaten all the last of the jelly babies there? No, it's not. Will I remember in the morning that that's happened? Absolutely not. When I'm hypo next time, I'm like, oh, there's nothing there.
This is so real. Can I just say, this is so real. I can hear the listeners like, oh, that's me.
Oh, there's nothing worse than being additionally cross about something else in the middle of a hypo.
Oh my goodness, yes. And you are always additionally cross about something else in the middle of the hypo. I get the most random triggers as well when I'm there in that weird state.
Oh, the hypo fury. Like, where does that come from? And why do I have to feel that angry about stuff whilst, theoretically on the verge of dying? Like, how's that helpful?
What is this condition? What is it?
But the poor guy, like, James has been on the receiving end of a lot of that, and I'm like, do I have to apologise for that if it's not my fault? Like, technically yes, but and then I don't remember it either. So I'm like, he's furious with me because I've said some outrageously awful things, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Why is he being so mean to me? Like 3 hours later.
Why is he off?
and that's, you can't extrapolate yourself from it.
It was not me. It was my diabetes.
He's still been through that and had to experience it, and it's not fair. It's not fair. Also, shout out to all the people just dealing with this independently. I mean, absolute kudos to you. People, living on their own, dealing with this without family support, or
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just different courses of life, isn't it? It all comes with its own challenges. It's like the childhood diagnosis versus adult diagnosis. It's like the challenges are different, I guess. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's an interesting one to ponder. Um, let's talk about having children in your
Hmm.
lovely family. So I've spoken to a lot of parents who are raising children with type 1. And I've spoken to some people in depth about going through pregnancy with type 1. But keeping with the theme of today and the kind of everyday of it all, making space for diabetes is a lot on top of like full-time jobs, relationships, etc. And then obviously raising a family, that's no small thing. So I'm wondering if you could just speak to, like, with your firstborn, the shifts that surprised you, and like how you made how the space that you could give to all the things in your life kind of shifted.
Yeah, I mean, pregnancy and childbirth and all of that stuff was immense in its own existence. Also, another shout out to the Homerton diabetes and obsgyne and all of that, and the extra special care I got being a type 1 person,
Yes.
having a baby there. Um, yeah, it's like even before you leave the hospital, you're on the maternity ward, and like my nurse came to say hello because I texted and said I was there, and she came and met the baby, which was amazing and so lovely. But it just, even like trying to do breastfeeding, I'd just be hypo all the time. So when I was back home, with the first sort of weeks and stuff, I'd set up like this little box, and it had like, muslins for the baby and baby dummy and things like that, stuff you need whilst you're breastfeeding and stuff, along with a massive bottle of water, because you need to stay really hydrated because you're having to create all this milk to feed the baby with, and bottles of Lucasade, packets of jelly babies, packet of biscuits. Like, when you're sort of making all the breast milk for the baby, it's really sweet, and you're like, oh, no wonder I'm hypo all the time. All my sugar's going, to, like, foster new life and growth. So even like, yeah, straight away, the impact on your diabetes is huge, and there's we get so little sort of specified support as a brand new type 1 mother, especially. There isn't a huge amount, and to be honest, I think that was the bit that was a real culture shock. You're so looked after during your pregnancy, and then it's like, bye. You get checked on for, like, midwives come and visit, health visitors come and visit, but they don't know anything about type 1 diabetes. So it's a real grey area from a healthcare perspective, that transition from being a pregnant lady to being a new mum with a baby and type 1 diabetes. And then it's just sort of, yeah, like night feeds, and what's really good for type 1 diabetes: consistent sleep. It helps regulate our blood sugars and our insulin sensitivity, all of that. Oh, that's all gone. My children didn't sleep properly for about 5 years, so that was a struggle.
Just when you need it the most as well, because
Yeah,
that's what's going to give you the stability to be able to focus more on raising
yeah,
your children.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to finish feeding the baby. I can't get up and deal with this hypo right now. I'm just going to have to suck through it. Yeah, it's going to be worse for me. I mean, theoretically, you do like aeroplane emergency rules and sort the children, sort yourself out first, and then deal with the children. When they say the warning stuff about like the air masks coming down from the roof, that would be sensible, but that's not how mums' brains work. um, And I still do that. I often have hypos after collecting them from school because it's like a half-hour walk, especially on a warm afternoon like we've had the last week. My blood sugars are like bombing during that half-hour walk to and from school. Get home, they're hungry, they need snacks. So they've had to deal with that issue. Sometimes I can just kind of coast through it, and I'm like, I've made you some sandwiches. Just sit down and have them. I'm going, and then I'm like, I just feel really wobbly. I just need 20 minutes. And they're really sweet now. They're like, Mummy, do you need anything? And I'm like, I'm okay, because I know they can't really reach all the stuff. So yeah, it's just really tough.
Oh,
It's um, it's a fine balance um, between prioritizing their needs and your needs, and it's still a village affair, but it's now incorporating them, so they have to sort of know and understand. They see me putting my CGMs on my tummy before we're getting ready for school in the morning, or me going, oh, I need to go and have to refill my insulin pump, or they're going, can I have one of your jelly babies? I'm like, no, no, you can't. I'm really sorry. Or me going, I'm sorry, I'm eating the last ice cream in the freezer because I'm having a massive hypo now. Yeah, everybody was a bit annoyed at me for that this week.
it's a medical emergency. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 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 And then I had to text James and go, there's no more ice creams left. If you want one, you have to buy one from the shop on the way home. Sorry. Yeah, it's just gotta work. You've just gotta work it in. And it's like project management skills. Life it's about balancing priorities and needs, constantly reassessing what that is. What are we doing? How are we prepared? And then when they're little and they're toddlers, your mum friends are going, oh, I'm bringing all this stuff all the time. I've got like spare clothes and snacks for the kids, and I'm like, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I've got a whole bag of like diabetes kit and snacks for myself as well. Like going on holiday as a family is really challenging. Everyone's like, oh, you're going to have a lovely time. And I'm like, oh, I'm dealing with the heat. I've not been here before. We're doing excursions. I don't have like a stick-on pump. I've got to remove my pump if I want to go in the swimming pool. But like, where's safe to leave it? Will it get fried in the sunshine? Can I get it on and off in my swimsuit without flashing everybody? It's just, yeah, all the time.
Master juggling. Yeah. I'm curious about that because, people who don't live with type 1 diabetes, we often hear like work-life balance, this concept, and
Mm-hmm.
I sort of don't really think it's a thing. I think we're constantly on this pendulum swing in all facets of our life. And diabetes is a real example of that, where it's so dynamic, like you're constantly responding and reacting. You can be proactive to a point, but it's going to demand things of you that you didn't expect, or it's going to present things that you didn't expect. And I sort of see it as this morphing, shape-shifting pendulum where family or relationship or work or something will push diabetes a bit more, so it squidges over to one corner, but then at some point diabetes just pushes right back, and it's just kind of constantly
Mm.
moving around in there, and somehow your limit just seems to expand. I don't know, but this idea of like, you just have to get on with it, and but that just having to get on with it a lot of the time, just it's just the thing that you don't really get to articulate.
We don't really stop and acknowledge it ourselves a lot, so it's very difficult to describe to other people. There's that lovely fact where we like make 181 extra decisions a day or whatever it is. 81, can't remember. But it's that. And you're like, yeah, level that on top of family life, full-time job, commuting. Oh, I love commuting. I hate commuting. Commuting makes me have hypos. like, you're so stressed during the day and you've got all this cortisol driving like insulin resistance. And then I leave the office. I love having a hypo on the train home.
Oh my gosh, my friend Amy, every day is exactly the same. She
Yeah,
always
every
says it.
day. I
Yeah.
feel like if people start having to be like, oh, you need to come back to work all the time, no. I'm gonna use reasonable adjustment as like, I just can't. I can't because it's great. You've maybe I have to come into work and go on the train, and now I'm hypo on the train home or picking my children up, and now I can't spend quality time with my family because of that. It's the impact of that. Although it's not happening at work, it's the impact of that work choice affecting my quality time with my family. I don't want to be having hypos with my children, on every day that I've been back from the office, because I'm hypo on the train home from stress-related insulin sensitivity. Great.
Yeah. And what you say there about the acknowledgement is spot on, I think, because we don't have the time, because we're just on to the next thing,
Yeah.
whether that's life, whether that's diabetes related or not, it's all life and it keeps moving. So this stuff that we're going through, we're kind of like, I see myself in these video games sometimes, just like batting things away and then gobbling sugar as I move into the next
Yeah.
tunnel. And it's like, pow, 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 like, it just is what it is. Like, where do we get the space to articulate and acknowledge that? Really, I mean, well, we're doing a great service here, if I do say so myself. We're just indulging each other, basically.
But this is what peer support is about. It's about sharing and going, oh yeah, that totally happens for me too. I feel really seen and understood now. What was great, I don't know if you've seen on the BBC the show Race Around the World. One of the contestants on that had type 1 diabetes, and they were racing to the last point, and he stops and goes, I'm just going to have all these like glucose so that I don't have a hypo racing to the point. And I'm like, oh, I love this. Not for you. Like, I love seeing that this is how you're approaching it, and this is what you're taking into account living with diabetes in this situation. Because I'm like, yes, that is such a good idea for you. I'm massively cheering you on from home, because it's so sensible.
Yeah, but it's a preemptive decision that he's had to think about before anything even happens, to make sure that that potential moment isn't ruined by a hypo. And then it's like, but I don't want to take too much. Again, it's a boring reality of what we're dealing with. When you're going into a meeting, whether, if it's a physical thing or not, if you're going into something important, or you're jumping into a swimming pool, or going into the supermarket, you are thinking, okay, where am I at? What's happening? Like, how do I feel? You're sort of doing these mental checks, often quite subconsciously as well, until there's an action point. Yeah, I think that is spot on, because it wasn't about the fact that he was doing something like amazingly, hugely physically challenging. It was the decision point.
I think so much of the diabetes orientated sort of marketing from big corporations selling products that we're using, insulin pumps, CGMs, things like that. It's so like, oh, he's a really sportive, active person running a marathon, achieving all of this. You're like, just want to get the train and walk home without dying. That's all I want. I just want to get through a Sunday lunch without having like my blood sugars spike to 20 and then be wrecked for the rest of the day. I just want every day to feel more normal. Do you know what? That's all I want.
So real. That's exactly why I wanted to do this episode, because I just think like so many of us are just trying to get through this. There are days when I couldn't get out of bed, let alone run a marathon. Like, and that's a paradox I find quite hard, because I go from one to the other in the blink of a double down arrow. Do you know what I mean?
Even walking to my Zumba class, I'd had like 2 hypos that day, and I was like, I want to go because I didn't go last week. And I really want to go because I love it. And I walked to the shop and I bought an ice cream Mars because I really wanted one. And then by the time and my blood sugar was like 5.2, 5.6, I was like, well, I think I need this to help boost my blood sugars. It's quite obviously high in fat and things, so it'll release the carbs slower into my system. And then I got to my class and my blood sugar was still only 5.6. I'm going to die if I do a Zumba class with the starting blood sugar of that. So I had a glucose shot as well. So I didn't bolus for either of them. Maintained my blood sugar throughout the class at around 5.6, 5.4. I was like, oh my God, that's a miracle. And then got home fine and had some more food because I also my class is really late. It's like 8:30, so I can't have dinner because I can't have insulin in my system before I go to the class because I have hypos in the class. So yeah, it's like strategic planning to do an hour's Zumba class.
It's just constant. Yeah. Oh, this is an incredibly validating conversation. Thank you so much. We've talked a lot about like the boringness and the everyday. Is there like, having been on this journey for 37, 38 years, is there anything about it like now in 2025 that where you're like, I'm still being surprised by this, or is that a constant thing?
Yeah, I don't think I'm surprised by what my diabetes is capable of anymore. Because we've been through so much together. To give it its own personification. We've been on journeys. We really have. There've been good times, there've been bad times, but we're both still here. And I think I'm just really excited to see what technology and biological solutions are next. Because I see such lovely stuff like, oh, we might be able to do sort of a vaccination for people so they don't get type 1 diabetes. I'm like, that's lovely for all the people that are not yet affected. Hi. Hi, it's been a lifetime already. Can help. I think last week there was some stuff about something that theoretically cured someone, but then they're still on immunosuppressant. Yeah, not a cure. If you're still taking drugs for it, not a cure, is it really? I just want diabetes to be nothing. Ultimately, that's what I'm aiming for. So, so much has happened technology and management wise since I've been diagnosed, since 1988. Imagine where we could be in that same time over, basically. I'll still be like 70, I don't know how old I'll be, 75, something like that, 70. But yeah, it'd be really nice to not have diabetes by then.
Yeah, it's a wild thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like, hopefully we go from the boringness to the nothingness, like you
The
say.
nothingness would be lovely.
That's what we'll aim for. Philippa, I think you've really spectacularly articulated and demonstrated how you're not failing, but you are handling this as a human being, a living, breathing human who is more than her diabetes. And yeah, it's been so lovely to chat to you about this on a level. Hopefully the listeners have felt that too and felt like part of the conversation. Is there anything else you want to add?
It's interesting, but yeah, really all we really want is nothing. Ultimately. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just don't want to have to do this all the time. Forever.
Yeah. And we're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
We're allowed to say that.
Because it's endlessly irritating. And yeah, I'm 38 years. I'm a bit over it.
I hear you. Thank you so much. Like, absolutely wonderful. I'm really grateful for this conversation because it's not one that gets heard. I think it's a real service to put this kind of chat out there.
Thank you so much, Jen.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Type 101. Please remember that nothing you hear on this podcast should be taken as medical advice. I'm definitely not a healthcare professional. If you like what you hear, hit subscribe and do leave a little review on iTunes if you have time. It really helps to spread the word about type 1 diabetes. And thank you so much for listening.